Hey guys, welcome to my channel. So in today's video I'm going to rank every Nintendo console that's ever come out. So S being the best and F being the worst. So let's get started. So the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to rank consoles first, and then I'm going to do the handhelds. And I'm going to start with the earliest consoles that were released first. And the earliest console that was released was the Nintendo Entertainment System, the NES. So I'm going to rank the NES at B, right? Now the way I'm doing this is I'm basing them off the impact they had at the time, but also how good they are today. Like, do they stand the test of time? Longevity? Do they have, games that are still very playable today? So I think the NES still holds up very well today. I think games like Zelda 1, Mario 1, Mario 1, 2, Mario 3. There's plenty of games on the NES that still hold up very well today. But then there's also plenty of games that don't anymore, However, I think it's still a very good console, and the impact it had at the time, it saved the game industry. It came from the video game crash, and it revolutionized the industry. And many consoles that we play today, they owe it to this system right here. So the NES back in the days would obviously be an S rank, but in the long run, in hindsight, compared to what we've had after it, I'm going to put it as a B. A B. Right, so what came out after the NES? Super Nintendo, and I think the Super Nintendo is absolutely brilliant. It's probably the best, one of the best, easily one of the best, debatable. I'm going to put this SNES at an A. I would usually put it at S because it's one of my all-time favorite consoles, and there's so many classic games on there that I could talk about. Well, I'm not going to go into a lot right now. I'm just going to rank these consoles. But the Super Nintendo, I'm going to put that down as an A rank. And then the N64 came after the Super Nintendo. Is the N64 better than the SNES? I don't think it was, but it was still revolutionary, groundbreaking. Took gamers to the 3D realm, introduced the rumble stick, the rumble pack, and the analog stick. It was a revolutionary console. It had some of the greatest games of all time: GoldenEye, and Mario 64, and of course Zelda: Ocarina of Time. But I don't think it was better than the SNES. I think the SNES was, for me, the better system. So that means I'm going to have to rejig this list already. I'm going to put the N64 at B, because I think personally for me, the N64 was better than the NES. I think the NES was definitely ahead of its time, but I think what the N64 did, transition from 2D to 3D, it wasn't easy, and it did it fantastically. But again, the NES saved the game industry, so you can argue which one's better. But for me, I think the N64 games, a lot of them still hold up very well. Some of them don't, because 3D doesn't age well. But yeah, I think so far this is how I'm going to rank them. SNES was my favourite, and then N64, then the NES. And then next up was the GameCube. I love the GameCube. At the time of its release, people didn't appreciate it as much. It didn't sell as well as the PS2, nowhere near. It was one of the Nintendo's lowest selling consoles at the time. But in terms of games, this GameCube had some incredible games. Like, I'm not going to go into them right now, but I would say the GameCube in the long run, now today, I would say the GameCube has better games than the N64. I think the N64 games had a bigger impact, like GoldenEye, Ocarina of Time, Mario 64, Mario Party, and so on. I think they were more impactful, and some of them were probably still the best games of all time, like Zelda. But I think the GameCube has bigger library of more quality games. The N64 didn't have a big library. When you look at it now, the library is quite small. They were good games, but they were quite small. But the GameCube has a large library of high quality games that will rival modern games of today. Hence why the GameCube has probably never been released on the Virtual Console, because those games are too good. Like Paper Mario 1000 Year Door is being released on the Switch because the game is that good. They didn't want to release it for free on the Virtual Console. So the GameCube games like Wind Waker and all that, they just aged very, very well. And I'm going to say the GameCube was an improvement on the N64 in terms of quality games. So I'm going to have to rejig this list again. I'm going to put... I feel bad putting the NES at a D because it's not a D. But today it probably is a D. I'm going to say N64. I'm going to say... Because a D is like saying it was really bad. I don't think the NES was bad. I mean, you can put it on a C. I'm going to say, no, it's definitely not a D. NES is not a D. NES had some absolute classics. So I'm going to say, yeah, the N64 and the NES. I might have to rejig this list, guys. We'll come back to this one. So next up is, let's see, what came after the, the Wii. The Wii came next. Now the Wii, I'm going to put the Wii at D, right? It was a great console for its time. It was motion controls, everything. It was revolutionary. It was great. Big buzz. But a lot of the Wii games, some of them do hold up, but a lot of them are motion gaming. I mean, there are some absolute classics like Mario Galaxy 1 and 2, Xenoblade Chronicles, and of course Wii Sports. But when you look at Nintendo's other consoles, the Wii created that casual audience, which is great, but then it lost the hardcore audience from what we had with the GameCube. And the quality it was like I don't know, you had that different fan bases, like you had the casual audience and then you had a hardcore audience, and the Wii was massively focused on the casual audience, and the casual audience, I don't know, I don't know, the Wii doesn't hold up as well as, you know, some of the other systems. I think the Wii for its time was fantastic, but in the long run, when you look back now, when you think of the games, there weren't enough high quality games in my opinion. And yeah, I'm gonna put the Wii at a D. But it wasn't a bad console. I don't even think the Wii should be a D. I think the Wii might have to be a C. I don't think the Wii is a D. Maybe it is, I don't know. Is it a D? Maybe. Let's put it on D for now. I don't think it wasn't, yeah, okay, let's go back to the Wii U anyway. The next one was the Wii U. The Wii U is definitely an F. Now, it had some absolute classic games, don't get me wrong. Breath of the Wild was on there, Pikmin and so on. What else? I don't know. There was a lot of good games on it, Smash Brothers and so on, Mario Kart 8. But unfortunately, this is the worst period ever for Nintendo. And it was a perfect storm of bad marketing, badly designed console, and then bad name as well, Wii U. Everything was wrong with this system. But we can all see what they were trying to do. We can see what they were trying to do. For me personally, I had a Wii U. I really enjoyed it. I loved being able to play my console on a portable while someone else is watching football on the TV. Something that PlayStation fans are now buzzing off with the PlayStation Portal. But the Wii U did that 10 years ago. What PlayStation Portal is doing now, the Wii U did that 10 years ago, but no one ever bragged about it. You know, I personally loved it. I thought it was awesome. You could just switch from your TV to your handheld. It was great. It was great. But then, yeah, unfortunately, the Wii U was a disaster in so many ways, so it has to be an F. And then, of course, we got the Nintendo Switch. Now, for me, the Nintendo Switch is Nintendo's greatest console ever. And that's coming from a guy who played Nintendo games from the very beginning, the NES, big Nintendo fan. And for me, I think the Switch is, just look at the sales numbers. It's probably going to beat the PS2's all-time record. I mean, no one ever saw that coming. I did. I predicted it, about 4 years ago at least. But people were in doubt that the Switch would, I didn't think the Switch would outsell it at the start, but halfway through I thought it has a potential. So the sales numbers says it all about the Switch. When you look at the sales numbers, it is up there with the PS2 as one of the all-time greats. When you look at the library of games, it's just hit after hit after hit after hit. And what it's done, the hybrid system, it's just again revolutionized the game industry. You can predict PS6 and the next Xbox is most likely going to be a hybrid. You got the Steam Deck and you got all these other companies like Lenovo trying to make handheld hybrid systems, and it's just the Switch has created another trend like Nintendo, all these Nintendo consoles have done before. I think the Switch is just phenomenal. It's a very underpowered system and it's competing with the most powerful systems out there like PS5 and Xbox Series X. And it's just proving once again, power isn't everything, it's about the quality of the games, and the Switch has produced quality over quantity. So yeah, Switch is my favorite console. I play it every single day, and it has to be an S. Now then, let's have a look at the handheld market. So I'm going to start with the Game & Watch. I never had a Game & Watch. I can understand why it was so good for its time. It literally introduced the world to the D-pad, which is standard in every control pad that we have today, and it was a great little handheld. But I did have one, I think, in the 80s or the early 90s, but I never really felt because by then I already played the Game Boy, so I understand why it was popular. But I'm gonna put the Game & Watch at an F, and that's not disrespecting it. It's an absolute iconic masterpiece of a design. I don't know, it was an innovation. It was just so ahead of its time, I guess. But I think today we wouldn't really play it. We just, it's just one of those things, collector's item. That's all it is now. Today we wouldn't play on it. Like, I don't even think little kids would play on this thing anymore. It's a good little antique, but as a game system today, it doesn't hold up. It's an F. It doesn't mean it's bad. It's just today I wouldn't play on it. I actually do have one. I've got the Game & Watch. As a collector's item, the new one that they released a few years ago, and it's cool. I like the look of it and everything. I think it's awesome. But I just have to be realistic. What holds up today? The original Game Boy. You know what? This is again an absolute iconic system, but I'm gonna have to. The reason I'm pointing at D, it has to be above the Game & Watch, but I'm putting it as a D because of you needed the sunlight to see what you're doing. It was very difficult to see. I remember my neck used to hurt when I used to play the original Game Boys. But the library of games are amazing. Although I really struggle playing games like Link's Awakening, adventure games like Pokemon and stuff like that. Because you need sunlight to play, and you buy these like third-party devices to get some light. That was my struggle with the original Game Boys, but it was a great system. I hate putting it at a D because today, if we had one of those today, I would not be able to play it. Absolutely no chance. So yeah, but it's a great for its time. It was ahead of its time. It was amazing. We all had one, and Game Boy Color. Obviously, I did Color. I think I might just even put the Game Boy Color up here, because we all had a Game Boy Color in this era, and they had some amazing games. Yeah, I think that's about fair. Game Boy Advance. I think the Game Boy Advance has to be up here as well. Yeah, because the problem with the Game Boy Advance, even though it was much more superior than the original Game Boy, you still needed sunlight to be able to see what you're doing, and again, neck aches, all that stuff. And the games were great. I mean, it had quite a few SNES ports, but still had some great games. So yeah, I will say the Game Boy Advance is a C, on par with the Game Boy Color. Yeah. Now, this is when things get better for me. I really liked the Game Boy SP. Do you know what? I'm gonna have to rejig this list. I'm gonna put these down here. I'm gonna put. Do you know what? I feel bad doing this. Put the Game Boy Advance up here. Right. So the original Game Boys are D's, and the Game Boy Advances are C. Do you know what? The Game Boy Advance. I have to just put that in a D down here. I will. It makes. This is my list. I'm gonna rank the original Game Boy Advance a D. And the Game Boy Advance SP is when I really enjoyed playing on the Game Boy Advance, because it had not a backlit, it's a frontlit, but you could actually see what you're doing, and it was awesome, and I love the design of it as well. It was slick. Now, for once, I can actually finally enjoy playing a Game Boy in the dark, and that's it. It gets a C for me. From this point onwards, this is when I started playing Nintendo handhelds properly. Before this, I really hated playing on the handheld because you needed sunlight. Without sunlight, you can't play the game. You can't play it in the dark. You can't play it at night when you're going to bed. And it was just awful. But it was a great system. Great games. Just, you couldn't play at night. Unless you turn the light on. But Game Boy Advance SP changed all that. For me, the SP is a C. Then came the Game Boy the Nintendo 3DS. The 3DS is definitely a B. No, sorry, the original DS, not the 3DS, the DS. It was fantastic, absolutely fantastic. In fact, I'll put it up here, C. I'll put it here, C. No, actually no, I'll put it in a B. I think it's a B. It was better than the SP, of course. It was 3D graphics, touchscreen was revolutionary, blew us away. It was one of those. It was like the first time you played motion gaming. The first time you played on a touchscreen. This is long before iPads and touchscreens, any sort of touchscreen phones or anything like that. It was long before that. This is 2004, I think, or 2005. I can't remember, but yeah, blew us away. Absolutely blew us away. And you know what? It got even better when they re-released this model, the DS Lite, and the new design literally boosted the sales. There's a reason why it's the second best-selling system of all time. And then when it comes to 3DS, the 3DS for me, I would say it's an A. You know what? It is an A. Like the original DS competed with PSP. It was blew us away. But do a lot of those games still hold up today? I think they do, but there's quite a few of them visually they don't look as good. The 3D ones in particular, but the 2D ones do. But the 3DS had fairly good visuals. I liked it. I mean, a lot of the 3DS games you can still play today. You know, it's not that old, is it? The 3DS was a great system, and it's not too old. It's like in the last decade, isn't it? The 3DS XL was the peak of the DS era, and I would definitely put it at rank A, because it's backwards compatible with the original DS for starters. So you can play all the old games, and then you can play the current games. And the 3DS library was fantastic. You know, I'm not going to go through all the games, but it was great. And then, you know, of course, the Nintendo Switch is a hybrid system, so that's a handheld as well, and that's definitely an S. I think that sounds right, because the Switch replaced the 3DS. So that's my tier list for the Nintendo handhelds and the Nintendo consoles. And yeah, guys, let me know in the comment section if you agree, disagree, if you think I'm disrespecting any of these systems in any way by putting them in an F or a D. Let me know in the comment section what you think is your S. I know my close friends think the Super Nintendo is an S. I don't disagree with that one. I think the SNES could easily be up an S. You know, in fact, the SNES probably could be an S. I'm thinking about it. The amount of absolute classics on there, like Chrono Trigger, Final Fantasy VI, Donkey Kong, Killer Instinct, Street Fighter, A Link to the Past. The list goes on the SNES, doesn't it? But you know what? This Nintendo Switch is backwards compatible. Well, it's not backwards compatible, but it has the Switch Online, and it has a lot of the SNES games on there. It has the SNES controller on there. You know, it lets you play with the SNES controller and 64 controller. It lets you experience a lot of these old systems in the most authentic way. So you can play your SNES games on a Nintendo Switch with a SNES controller, a NES controller, N64 controller, GameCube controller. So it lets you relive the nostalgia. So I think the Switch is the perfect system. And we're just eagerly waiting for the new Nintendo Switch 2, whatever that's going to be called. But yeah, guys, let me know in the comment section if you disagree on that list. I'll be happy to know what other people think, and feel free to rip apart my list. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next ranking video.